Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Taylor and I read mostly Christian fiction, some clean fiction, particularly fairy tale retellings, and a little bit of middle grade thrown in there as well. So today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my top audiobooks for 2023. So I read, the majority of what I read was audiobooks. And I never used to be that much into them. This is the first year I fully embraced audiobook life. But with the busy schedule, being a new mom, I try and work reading into however and whenever I can, and audiobooks are the way to go. So I have quite a pool to pull from, so I feel like I can give you a pretty good list, and I'm going to do my top 10. And hopefully, if you're not quite into audiobooks or are thinking about dipping your toe into it and not sure where to begin, this might be a list you could start with and see how you like them. An audiobook can really make or break your experience for real. So if an actor's voice doesn't quite mesh well with you, or their performance is subpar, it can really impact how you experience the book, how you rate it, how you felt about it. And if they are spectacular, it can take your reading experience way over the top and make it phenomenal. So I really think that an audiobook has a huge impact on a reader and how they experience a book. So I have had a few that I just could not, mostly for how a voice sounded. I've had a few that I softy enough, meaning that I can't do the audiobook, but I'm willing to pick up the actual physical book at some point. But that is one example of how not every audiobook is for everybody, but hopefully some of you will like these as well, or if you have already listened to them, let me know your thoughts, if you agree or disagree, if they are some of your favorites or not. So like I said, I'm doing top 10, and I'll try and give a short synopsis of the story so you have a little bit of idea of what I'm talking about. But mainly I picked these primarily for the narrator's performance. All of them are at least 3.5 or higher for me. So they're not necessarily my favorites of the year, but they are my favorite audiobooks of the year. So here we go. So at number 10 is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, narrated by Patrick Stewart. And I don't think I need to give a synopsis for this one. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what this one is about. But Patrick Stewart is in my book, a well-known actor, but I guess unless you are a Star Trek fan, his name may not be as familiar to you, but he is Captain Picard in Star Trek, and so yeah, I recognize his name immediately, and I have seen he plays George. I don't know where I got George from. I think it's George C. Scott is the version I usually watch, but he is in his version of the film adaptation for A Christmas Carol. I think I've only watched it once or twice. Like I said, I'm a George C. Scott person. I grew up watching that one, but his is pretty good too. So if you have seen it, you can kind of picture the pieces of the movie as he's reading through the book. And I think he did a pretty good job. So that is at number 10. Number 9, The Mark of the King by Jocelyn Green, narrated by Carine, and I'm going to butcher her last name, Montbertrand. So this story is historical Christian fiction, and it is an excellent book in my opinion. It is about a little known piece of American history. So the French government decided to try and force population growth in the colony of New Orleans, and the way they decided to do that was to take convicts and force them to marry and immigrate to the colony. And this particular story is about one such woman who was falsely accused. She was imprisoned wrongly, and so she is forced to marry, and it is her journey of making it to the colony, and her life in the colony. And that sounds kind of a little bit maybe a little bit boring, but it is really more of her personal struggle, and it is a love story as well. There's a lot of emotion packed into this story, and I really, really recommend you try it out if you like historical fiction, particularly Christian. There's such faith in this story. But anyways, so I think Carine did an excellent job because she is French, and there are a lot of French terms, and she uses the French accent, so it just kind of takes your immersion into what it might have been like a little bit, hearing these people talk and how it actually is supposed to sound. And I know with some accents, like if you're not a native speaker, it can be a little bit harder to understand maybe, but I didn't personally have any trouble understanding her talking, so highly recommend that one. At number 8, I have A Quilt for Christmas by Melody Carlson, and that one was narrated by Stephanie Gozart. And this is a little novella, Christmas obviously, and it's contemporary, and it's about this little girl befriends her neighbor when her mom has an emergency, and so she notices that this neighbor who really is alone in town and doesn't have anybody to celebrate Christmas with, and so this little girl notices a quilt on her bed and thinks that is just the best thing ever, and wants to make one for her mom for Christmas and help her feel better. And so it is this woman's journey to try and find people help her make a quilt, and so God places people in her path to help her do that. And so there are unlikely friendships, and it's just a really heartwarming story. And I'm not typically a general fiction, contemporary fiction type of person. There is an element of romance, but I could have taken it out of this story personally. But I think that Stephanie's performance was really good, and it helped add to my enjoyment of the story. You can tell that she has talent because the youngest character, the little girl, she's 4, and I think the oldest one is in her 70s. So there's at least one character in her 30s, so you can really tell like her range of talking goes from 4 to someone in their 70s. And particularly with children's voices, I think it can be a lot of times not done very well. It can be a very cringy sound to me personally, but she did really well. Number 7, this is a series of books, a 3-part series that kind of rolling up into one, because you're going to want to binge this series and it's going to act like a really long book. But that is the Annie Pederson series by Colleen Coble, and this one was narrated by Talon David, and truly I think that I enjoyed this series as much as I did because of her performance. And she just had such a knack for keeping you engaged. So let me tell you what it's about before I get into that. It is a romantic suspense Christian story, and Annie Pederson, she is a law enforcement officer for a law enforcement ranger, I think, in I forget where exactly it is, but out in the wilderness somewhere. And so there are some kind of mysteries going on because some bodies are showing up, and there's also some family drama. She had a sister go missing when she was a lot younger, and so she has been searching for her sister ever since as an adult to try and find her. She's never given up hope. She also has her ex is in town. This is a second chance romance, and I think it did it pretty well. I'm not usually a fan of those, but I think this story did it really well. But anyway, so that one, I think Talon did a good job of helping keeping you engaged, keeping you at the edge of your seat. A lot of that was Colleen's writing, but Talon just made it even better. Number 6, Sky with 7 Colors by Rachelle Nelson. That was a debut novel this year, and it is narrated by Stacey Glembowski. This one is about a parallel Earth, and it is a grayscale, black and white, and this young woman kind of accidentally slips through a portal, and she is in this new world, and she is in color and everything else is not. So there is a little bit of magic in this story, and color magic is the strongest magic in this world, and she is the only human in this world, and so her color magic is highly coveted, and the king of that world wants to use that magic. And the king is part of one species, and then there's also a second species, and it's really interesting how they're written. And Stacey, she you can tell she did her homework and actually read the story and took notes and kind of incorporated everything that was written and really helped create the character in my imagination. She did such inflections in her voice of slowing down the cadence and lowering it for one species, and it was so interesting how she did it. It really helped my imagination. At number 5, we have the first novella out of a 3-novella set, Once Upon a Dickens Christmas. This particular one is called 12 Days at Bleakly Manor by Michelle Griep. And this one, I think she did the best job out of all 3 of them. She narrated all 3, but she did the best job on this one. And it is kind of a mishmash of, and then there were known by Agatha Christie and Bleak House by Charles Dickens. And it's kind of Christmas and mystery and second chance romance all rolled into one, and it's just a very fun package. And there are several characters in here. There's male and female, and I think what really took this out of the park for me is that she did a good job of differentiating the characters, even of the same gender. And I think some narrators, like, they try and make a character sound a little bit different so you can try and see a difference, but sometimes I still get confused, you know, about who's actually talking. Not so in this case. You were very clear about who is talking. She had different accents, she had different inclinations and tones. They were each so different, and I think it was because of how she acted, all of them. She made the insufferable characters insufferable. She just made them better. It was like kind of like watching like Clue a little bit too, and yeah, it was just a fun time. And number 4 and number 3 are kind of related to each other because they're a part of a series as well, but I separated them out because the narrators are different. So at number 4 we have Positively Penelope, and number 3 we have Authentically Izzy, and they are a part of a set of siblings, or in some shape or fashion they go to a fictional country called Scamar. And the first one, Authentically Izzy, is about Izzy, and she's a book nerd. She loves to read. She loves all things fictional. There's a ton of literary references in this book. Both of these are epistolary novels, but this one is kind of more for the book lover. And so she has a romance, and then the second book, Positively Penelope, is for the theater lover. Penelope is a theater fanatic. She is constantly quoting and singing from musicals, and so it's her romance. But there's one narrator, Christopher Ashman. He narrates the male characters, and he's the same for both. But for Positively Penelope, we have Hazel, Beattie, and Julie Rogers. And the Authentically Izzy, we have Ferah, Ahmet. And all of these actors do such a good job. I think if you have more than one narrator for any book, it just sets the bar high. But when you have 2 or more, it sets it way up there. You know, like that's some investment in the story. But I think what made Ferah Ahmet, her performance even better was, I thought there was a third one. She narrated all the female characters so well that I thought there was another person. But she just did such a phenomenal job. I love all the accents, and because they're kind of like Scotland and English accents combined in this story. The Skamarian people, that's how you say it correctly. But yeah, it was such a pleasant accent to listen to, and Miss Ferah did an excellent job tricking me into thinking she had a counterpart, but she did not. So at number 2, we have, who do we have? Oh, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I lost my place. I scratched so much on this, trying to pick out an order. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, obviously by C.S. Lewis. I'm not going to give a synopsis for this one either. You probably know it's a portal to another world type story, Christian allegory. And I forgot to mention that, if you didn't know already, Sky of Seven Colors is a clean fantasy story. Once Upon a Dickens Christmas, Positively, Penelope, and Authentically, Izzy, they are both Christian, or all Christian. And The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a Christian allegory. So back to the purpose of this video is audiobooks. So so this one is narrated by Michael York, and he's a fairly well-known actor as well, British actor, and he also, as a single actor, made all the characters stand out and sound different, and just added a touch of his own magic to an already magical story. And it's a cozy story to begin with, and he just made it even cozier by bringing the characters truly to life. Yeah, even like Lucy and Susan, you know, little girl characters, he still managed to make them sound pretty much the way they're supposed to. And then at number 1, we have The Hobbit, obviously by J.R.R. Tolkien, and narrated by Andy Serkis. And I'm not going to give a synopsis for this one either. Also a Christian allegory, if you didn't know. But yeah, Andy Serkis plays Gollum in the movies, and he narrated all the books. But when I tell you that it is like a movie experience, that's exactly what it is. I was shocked. I was literally sitting in the dark listening to this story in the wee hours of the night, or wee hours of the morning, whatever you want to call it, at night, morning, you know, what time of day even is that, at like 2 o'clock in the morning. But anyways, so it was like literally like I saw everything happening before my eyes, you know, and just my imagination was just running rampant with him speaking this story into existence. And I don't know how in the world it's physically possible, but he makes all of the characters sound like the ones in the movie. Obviously, I've only read The Hobbit. I have yet to read the rest of the series, and I plan to this year. And I'm doing an Andy Serkis one, so I'll see how he does for these. But for The Hobbit, yeah, he sounds exactly like everybody, and it is uncanny. He deserves like some kind of, if there was an audiobook performance medal, he deserves the top tier medal. Like, truly well done. But yeah, so highly recommend that, particularly if you are a little weary of Tolkien and I still love the movies, but haven't read the book yet. Highly recommend you listen, and also if you want to physically read it too, I think that would be the best way for you to consume the material if you're a little hesitant. But anyways, so these are my top 10. Let me know your thoughts. I love hearing y'all's comments as always, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.